Russian President Vladimir Putin is running scared. Why? Ukraine just pulled off one of its boldest assassinations yet. No official claim, no public celebration. Just a silent, deadly strike deep in enemy territory. And all signs point straight to Kiev. The target, the infamous butcher of Mariupol, now eliminated in a precision kamikaze attack. This isn't just revenge. It's a message. Putin is starting to look over his shoulder because it's becoming terrifyingly clear. Ukraine doesn't just have reach. It has operatives inside Russia. And they're getting closer. On May 29th, CNN reported that Ukraine had managed to pull off an amazing feat. One of its operatives managed to kill a deputy mayor and one of the most prominent veterans of Putin's invasion of Ukraine, Sayor Alexandrovich Gertsiev. The 34-year-old Gertsiev died alongside another man on the streets of Stavropol in what Russian investigators are calling an attack committed using a homemade explosive device. That alone makes this latest Ukrainian assassination impressive. Stavropol is a city in southern Russia that lies around 650 miles away from Kiev. It's been a target of Ukraine's attacks before, most recently in November 2024, when Ukraine launched a drone strike against an oil depot near the city. However, this assassination is different. To make it happen, Ukraine had to sneak an operative over the border into South Russia, who then had to travel several hundred miles to reach the city so they could scope out their target. Once the assassin had their mark, the results were devastating. CNN reports that video footage of the incident, which we can't show here, is already circulating on Russian social media and appears to show the moments just before and immediately after the blast. Gertsiev is seen in the footage as he ambles down a darkened street before meeting another man close to a row of parked cars. Then the explosion happens. Once the dust settles, the footage shows Gertsiev lying on the floor in a pool of blood. The man who he met is rocked back by the explosion and, as we later learned, also died of his injury. As part of the investigation, the scene of the incident is being inspected, examinations are being ordered, and the necessary investigative actions are being carried out to establish all the circumstances of the incident, claimed Russia's investigative committee in a May 29th statement. Soon after the attack, the Stavropol regional governor Vladimir Vladimirov added to this, claiming that all versions are being considered, including the organization of a terrorist attack. The implication is clear. Russia believes Ukraine is responsible for Gertsiev's death. That investigation is already turning up some intriguing information. According to CNN, Russian investigators have discovered that the man who Gertsiev met, who is yet to be named, rented an apartment near the building where the explosion occurred. This has given rise to the theory that the explosion didn't come from one of the parked cars where the meeting took place. Instead, according to the Telegraph, some are theorizing that the man was a Ukrainian operative who launched a kamikaze bomb attack against the Russian official. If that's the case, then this is a new development in the Ukraine war. Ukraine has carried out assassinations before. We'll cover a few of them later in the video. However, it typically used improvised explosives packed into cars or other vehicles. If Gertsiev was truly killed by a kamikaze bomber, this shows us that Ukraine's operatives inside Russia are literally willing to give their lives to achieve their objectives. Credence to this theory comes from CCTV footage, which shows the unnamed man walking toward Gutenberg, while on his phone. As the two pass each other, the Telegraph says, a brief pause is seen before the explosion happens. But here's the key detail that CNN didn't mention. The explosion comes from between the two men rather than from the side. According to the Telegraph, local reports are already suggesting that the unnamed man may have been carrying a grenade or sticks of TNT. Of course, we don't know all of the details yet. They may never even be confirmed by Russia or Ukraine. But what we know for certain is that if there ever was a legitimate target for a Ukrainian kamikaze attack, Mizintsev would be it. Why? Because he's known in Ukraine as the butcher of Mariupol, which means Ukraine has been out for his blood for several years. A Telegraph report tells us that Gertsiev is a former major in the Russian military, who received several medals and other honors for commanding the brutal siege of Mariupol during the early months of the Ukraine war. More details about Gertsiev come from TVP World, which points out that he's been serving as Stavropol's first deputy mayor since October 2024. Suggesting that the position was created specifically for him. That should come as no surprise. CNN. says that Gertsiev was lauded for his actions in Mariupol, so much so that he was among the first to take part in the Time of Heroes program Putin set up following his invasion of Ukraine. That program exists to promote veterans of the invasion who've achieved what Putin perceives to be heroic actions to prominent official positions within the Russian government. Gertsiev was a beneficiary of this program to the point where it seems that a position was created especially for him. According to CNN, the Time of Heroes website explains why Gertsiev was given the position. Gertsiev, despite his relatively young age, led the air part of the operation to liberate Mariupol. The website claims he introduced his developments in the technology of targeting missiles, which allowed them to increase their accuracy and effectiveness many times over, including hitting the Azov supply base. That makes Gertsiev a hero to Putin, but to Ukraine, Gertsiev was one of the biggest villains of the war. The reason is simple.